Effective Connect Group leaders are leaders who have learned to lead relationally. Relational leaders are intentional about connecting with students on their team. They memorize their students' names. They ask personal questions to help them get to know people better. They remember the answers to the personal questions and follow up on important details. To be an effective relational leader, you will probably need to take notes as you learn important details about your students. Keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this training. We want you to learn to lead your group relationally in 3 important ways every week. Write these down as we go over them briefly. Number 1, learn to be a relational leader by leading your group to relational fellowship. Relational fellowship. Fellowship is a churchy word that means real-life connections with people. Fellowship happens when we connect with one another emotionally and spiritually. Some great ways to encourage relational fellowship are playing games, doing a craft, sharing exciting news, sharing difficult experiences, caring enough to remember details that are shared, laughing together, serving together, and being real together. Take time every week to lead your team in relational fellowship. Number 2, we want you to learn to be a relational leader by leading your group to relational prayer. Relational prayer. Students may be shy at first, but as you lead by example and encourage them in a loving way, they will learn to connect through relational prayer. The best way to lead your team in relational prayer is by asking great questions. Questions like, what has been going on in your life this week? Good things, bad things, happy things, sad things. Does anybody have any big news about a significant change in their lives? How are things going at school? Has anybody had any big accomplishments recently? Has anybody been in any trouble recently? How are things going at home? Any changes in your family? Any challenges at home? Has anyone been struggling with any challenges in their relationship with God that we can pray for? Too many times, leaders just ask, who has a prayer request? This is good, but it isn't relational leadership. When you ask relational questions, it helps people see the different areas that they can share. Students who normally have nothing to pray about will begin to share as you ask the right questions and, most importantly, demonstrate that you care about what they are saying. Now, time out real quick. This is important. Don't forget this one. When you ask personal questions, sometimes you will get very personal answers. If a student ever shares any details about a sexual or abusive situation, you must share that information with the student pastor or an adult leader the very same night. There can be serious and even legal ramifications for failing to report this kind of information. The best way to do this is to wrap up your meeting once whatever is shared is said, then pull aside an adult and update them on the situation. If you are one of our adult leaders and a student approaches you and shares this type of information with you, please make sure that you keep the student pastor in the loop. Failure to do so could result in legal violations that may have severe consequences for you. All right, now that we have that covered, we're moving on to the third and last thing that we want you to focus on in your Connect groups. We want you to learn to be a relational leader by leading your group to relational spiritual growth. Now, there's 2 types of people in your Connect groups on any given night. Those who have decided to follow Jesus and make him Lord of their life, and those who haven't. We want you to learn how to relationally lead both types to spiritual growth. So let's start with the first. A person who is spiritual dead needs to feel loved and welcomed by you regardless of what they believe. It's not our job to condemn unbelievers. It's our job to love unbelievers to Jesus. The way you accomplish this in Connect groups is by reminding your team every week that you are available to answer their questions about Jesus. Tell students that you would love to answer their questions and visit with them about why you have decided to follow Jesus. Tell them there is nothing wrong with being unsure about your relationship with God. We all go through struggles. What we must learn to do is overcome those struggles so we can connect with God. Tell them you are available to talk with them anytime about their personal struggles when it comes to connecting with God. If you really want to connect, go as far as giving out your phone number so that they could call you if they needed you. You know, The second type of person is a person who's already a follower of Jesus. A follower of Jesus needs to be led to grow in spiritual maturity. They need to be held accountable in their personal walk with God. They need training on how to connect with God. They need other believers to hold them accountable to follow God. They need to study the Bible and learn to apply it to their lives. They need a spiritual leader to intentionally invest relationship into their lives. These critical elements to a student's spiritual growth cannot happen effectively during connect groups because we don't have enough time or the right environment. That's why we are requiring our connect group leaders to invite students to UGrow every week. UGrow is where we will focus our efforts on helping students grow in spiritual maturity. We'll do this through intentional leaders who create a relational environment. UGrow is also the place where we will teach every student to become a disciple maker and how to multiply small groups for the advancement of God's kingdom on earth. In order to relationally lead the believers in your connect group to spiritual growth, you need to invite them to UGrow every week. Write it down, take a note, do whatever it takes to remember to extend that invitation every week. If you go to UGrow, tell them you can offer them a ride to come with you. If you don't, help them connect with someone who already goes to UGrow. Remember to lead relationally. In summary, your first priority as a connect group leader is to lead your group to relational fellowship, relational prayer, and relational spiritual growth.